Thank you very much for having us here today. And it's a privilege to sit here with these wonderful people and talk to you about cybersecurity. I'd like to thank TechAmerica and the Congressional Cybersecurity Caucus for organizing this event. And also, I'd like to thank both Congressman McCall and Congressman Lynchman for their continued leadership on cybersecurity. As we look at the attacks that plague our systems and networks, these attacks are different. These attacks are not the hacker attacks of the early days. No longer are these the script kiddies, the lonely college kids sitting in their dorm room trying to find out how far they can get in our systems. But these attacks are now persistent. They're sophisticated. These attacks are targeted attacks. They're targeting our businesses, our governments, and our critical infrastructure. When you look at these attacks are no longer games. These attacks are corporate espionage. These attacks are state-sponsored attacks. They're criminal behavior, like fraud and blackmail. And yes, you've heard a lot of it called APT. Yes, the threat is advanced, and yes, it's persistent. Today's attacks focus not on individual exploitation. We hear a lot about individual exploitation, but if you're looking for the individual piece of malware, you're missing the majority of the attack. Most attacks are attacks that have several steps, complicated steps, that allow the adversaries to not just penetrate our networks, say by using a phishing email or by convincing one of our users to click on something that has malware on their website. But that's just the beginning of the attack. Our attackers then become users, have activity that looks like a normal user, then we move through our systems and then exfiltrate data. It's important to know that these attacks are patterns. These attacks are not just onesie-twosie pops of Trojans and worms, but they're complicated and sophisticated. In today's cyber attacks, the cause of them is complicated in itself. The IT systems that we use today are complex, and our organizations have become more complex. As our organizations are results of mergers of many companies, as our government organizations are a result of a multitude of different components in one agency, all with their own networks, all with their own missions, all with their own priorities. And then we have our networks with many different types of applications, hardware, mobile devices. Keeping track and managing this life cycle is very difficult and complex. And when management becomes complex, vulnerabilities then exist. When the vulnerabilities exist, our adversaries take advantage of those vulnerabilities. So looking at what we have to manage, this becomes a difficult problem. And the problem seems almost unsolvable. And with today's current signature-based individual malware approach, it is not solvable. We need to look at a more effective approach. We need to realize that the public-private partnership to address cybersecurity challenges before us. We need to understand more about these cyber attacks. We need to understand the multi-step aspect of it. We need to understand these patterns so that we understand the entire attack, not just a piece of the attack. We need to move forward, and we need to come together to share information on those attacks so that the public and the private can work together to be more effective. We also need to come up with a way for our systems to be more tolerant of these attacks. We need to create a more tolerant technology, whether that's a change to more virtualization or to change detection technology that allows systems to write themselves back to an original state without signatures, reducing the cost of mitigation and disrupting the adversary's ability to stay persistent. We must enable creative identity management techniques that don't rely on passwords, PINs, or even smart cards or tokens for controlled access and authorization. This must be adaptive, it must be flexible, and it must be user-friendly. The financial sector has been very forthright, very ahead of the game by using a lot of new risk-based authentication technologies. And I think that the President's national strategy for trusted identities in cyberspace will help facilitate more of this type of innovative technology use. I think that we must embrace this new methodology. We must use technologies to secure our systems and manage our systems just the way the adversaries have embraced the new way of attacking us. So we have to change the way we secure our systems, change the way we defend and protect our systems. With new technologies like mobile, wireless, and more information at our fingertips, on the internet, in our homes, our kids are on the internet, we get our spouses on the internet. These attackers are taking advantage of this. They're not just attacking our corporations, but they're also attacking us personally. And it's important that we adjust security and evolve our technologies just as the threats have evolved. Cloud computing offers us opportunities to both consolidate our IT infrastructure and refresh that infrastructure and rid ourselves of a lot of vulnerabilities that exist from using old and archaic technology. But it also allows us the opportunity, the chance to bake security in and bake new security methodologies into our infrastructure. It also gives us an opportunity for businesses who are not in the IT business to step away from IT and allow the IT businesses to run IT. As we do this and we use IT providers, we reduce the community down and we allow more trust to form, more information to be shared, and more work to be done together to help combat these different types of adversaries and attacks. From the policy perspective, it's important for the U.S. Congress to pass effective cybersecurity legislation that will enable better risk management to both the private and public sector, not hindering. To achieve that, the House of Representatives should focus on results, not on prescriptive or mandated solutions. Things that can be done today to help organize and manage cybersecurity risks and help security professionals. And some of these would include establishing federal standards for breach notification, replacing the complexity that exists today because organizations have to comply with 45 different state laws, to take the burden off of the security professionals and enact one uniform federal standard for breach notification that are linked to risk and harm. Update the Federal Information Management Act, Information Security and Management Act, FISMA, by taking the focus off compliance and putting it onto operational risk. Improve the implementation of FISMA. Streamline and improve the federal government's organization and structure in how it develops, coordinates, and implements cybersecurity, strategy, and policy as necessary, and continue to streamline incident management processes and coordination. Enable information sharing and actionable cyber attack information. I'd like to change that word. Let's call it information exchanging. By establishing or refining the processes and policies that will enable information exchanging in real time. That includes addressing the overclassification problem, and also possibly helping establish a new public-private clearinghouse for information or building on existing capabilities. We can't just focus on today. If we focus on today, we're too late. What we're doing today isn't working. It's changing. The attacks are changing, and we have to change with those attacks. The threats and the attackers are sophisticated, they're persistent, and the stakes are higher for everyone. We're moving to the cloud. Technologies and services are changing. We must solve cyber security problems for the IT systems of tomorrow and of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. House.